Hello and welcome to Rajya TV. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our election special show, India Votes 2019. With general elections around the corner, we bring you the reality check on some of the works done by the NDA government led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during its 5-year tenure. Today, we will take a look at policies and schemes initiated for empowerment of women and the youth of the nation. While some of these schemes aimed at promoting innovation and entrepreneurship among the youth, others focused on the safety of women and addressing the issue of declining child sex ratio. So let's begin today's show with the program with a focus on the youngsters of the nation. And several schemes such as Startup India, Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana and Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana have been launched in the last 5 years. Let's take a look at all these schemes in detail.
Acknowledging India's distinct demographic advantage, the Modi government has made efforts that it says will turn India's educated youth into job givers rather than job seekers. One of the most prominent ones is the Startup India program that was launched on 16th January 2016 to promote innovation and entrepreneurship among the youth. The scheme offers tax relief for 3 years out of a block of 7 years for startups and various other incentives. Startups are allowed to issue ESOPs to promoters working as employees. Similarly, the Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana gives collateral-free loans to entrepreneurs to boost entrepreneurship. Over 13 crore small and medium entrepreneurs have received funding since April 2015. The government has said nearly 6.5 lakh crores has been pushed into the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Budget 2018 raised the allocation to 3 lakh crore rupees, a rise of 20% over the previous year. Another notable venture has been the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana for youth empowerment through skill development. Aimed at providing formal short-term skill training across the country, the program aims to train over 1 crore people in various skills. Over 13,000 training centers have been opened across India to impart training in 375 trades. The government claims that together the Mudra, Startup India and Stand Up India schemes are increasing opportunities for the youth. In the education sector, the government has emphasized linking autonomy with quality. In March 2018, UGC, in a historic decision, granted autonomy to 60 universities that maintained high academic standards. The National Testing Agency was established as an autonomous and self-sustained premier testing organization to conduct entrance examinations for higher education as per international standards. Numerous scholarships have also been provided to students to complete their studies. Both the Prime Minister and the government have emphasized that sports and fitness nurture talent and inculcate pride among youth. The Khelo India program is a mass movement to revive the sports culture in India at the grassroots level. The emphasis has been on putting in place a suitable ecosystem to nurture sports talent. India recently won a historic 66 medals in the 2018 Commonwealth Games in Australia.
So these were some of the schemes for the youngsters. Let's now listen into the views of the experts on these schemes and policies.
Startup India and Stand Up India foster a lot of entrepreneurship. Now that is a new concept because India has not been ready for that. We are just about gearing up to be compliant to Industry 4.0. In the olden years, or say even a decade back, you had to go through a necessary period of internship before you took the leap into entrepreneurship. Yes, the government is filling in the gaps through skilling centers. The government is helping with funding, through the fund of funds with a large corpus. Mudra is helping people who don't have collaterals or credit histories avail loans. Yes, definitely that is all helping, but it is still a few steps away. the nature of jobs have changed. When the nature of jobs have changed, self-employment has taken over.
So for more on these schemes, policies and how they worked on the ground for the intended beneficiaries, we have a distinguished panel of guests in the studio today. Let me start by introducing them to you, beginning with Dr. Yamini Agarwal, the Professor of Finance of the Indian Institute of Finance. We also have with us Mr. K. Badrinath, the Editor-in-Chief of Financial Chronicle. And we also have with us Mr. Sanjay Singh, the Political Editor of First Post. Let me begin with you, Mr. Badrinath, straight away on the policies. Specifically, the focus seemingly in the last 5 years has been on the demographic dividend. That's the youth. Schemes like Startup India, Stand Up India, the Mudra Yojana, the Kaushal Vikas Yojana, all of them seems to be, aiming towards that slogan which has been given by the government about, youth should create jobs instead of seek jobs.
Yes, the focus has been always with the Modi government that my guess is that you don't go out seeking jobs. Instead, you try and create jobs. If I'm a youngster, I should be setting up something, some productive unit, which would in fact create jobs for at least 2 or 3 others. This seems to have been the focus. There's a significant shift in the policy framework till 2014 and the later that we have seen in the last 4 or 5 years. Till 2014, how many jobs have been created? Who is going to seek employment? How many government jobs are being advertised? Or how many public sector companies are advertising for jobs? This is to be the trend. My guess is that there is a policy shift actually. How it has worked, what it is, how long we have gone, that's a separate question. The point here is that instead of youngsters you have seen the early days of 70s, 80s and even in early 2000 when people would go and enroll themselves in the employment exchange, seeking a job. And even now, when the Indian Railways had advertised for some few thousand jobs, there are lakhs of people who are seeking jobs. But here, there's the shift in the policy that I look at is that no, let's not just be happy with getting into a small job. Instead, you create your own enterprise, your own business, whatever small, big, large, whatever it is, and create jobs for more others. This seems to be there's a significant shift. That seems to be what I'm thinking. Second is, yes, they have tried their best. The government seems to have tried its best to put together a policy framework where creation of jobs or creation of new enterprises on the ground by youngsters, for youngsters and of youngsters seems to have just taken off on a positive note.
Okay. Dr. Yamini, if you look at holistically, this is like you hone your skills and then you get the support from the government in terms of loans or other financial support and put up an enterprise, be an entrepreneur, and then you can go ahead and give jobs to others as well.
Yes, true. When you're actually talking about the youth and you're talking about the employment position, it is necessary that the youth skills itself well, whether it is through the skill and training program of the PM Kaushal Yojana that is there, or through the other schemes that are there, and then goes about taking the initiative to bring about new startups. Now, this government has not only brought about, training in the youth with the PM Kaushal Yojana, but has also looked at providing them the necessary finances which is there through the Mudra Yojana which is there. So, you have the Shishu Yojana, you have the Kishore Yojana, and you have the other Yojana. So, up to 10 lakhs, you have a non-collateral based loan available to you. And besides the stand-up or the Startup India programs which have been there, have also been focusing upon in giving tax breaks or the others which the people would require. Another thing which the government has done is, in my opinion, has eased the manner in which business is supposed to be done. So if you look at this government's method of actually allowing businesses to be promoted in the country where employment can be generated through MNCs coming in our market or through our own industry doing the job. It has eased the manner in which the government permits or government approvals to be provided. We've moved from a rank of 130 to 77, jumped on an ease of doing business. So we've been trying to, the government has been trying to actually plan in a manner where the youth starts up a job, employs more and more people, and spreads the employment status which is there.
Okay, Sanjay, if we look at all these policies, one question which comes to mind is what might have been the rationale behind putting so much focus on the youth and bringing out their entrepreneurship skills, ensuring that they get all kind of support, be it in terms of skills enhancement or in terms of financial support.
I would imagine since Modi came from Gujarat, and that was a state where largely individual entrepreneurship was very high. This is a state which is known for business. Also, they have very good educational institutions. I think as Chief Minister, he had his own kind of learning, training and expertise and experiences there. And when he went for 2014 campaign, job was one key issue and joblessness was everywhere. And he connected this with, I think, two things. A, infrastructure development, and B, people whosoever, wherever they were, should get some kind of job or other, either as creator or in employment of something else, and should be there. After all, there is a limit how much all these metros can take people from hinterland. So therefore, India always had talent. India always had people with great skills. Unfortunately, the system was and still prevalent is that you go for graduation, matriculation, graduation and post-graduation, and then you start looking for job. A job generally means a job in government sector and in established private sectors. And beyond that, of course, there are too many opportunities. The way the country is expanding, economy expanding, the world over, thoughts and ideas are changing. New kind of you see new kind of startups up coming, and people actually, there was need for some kind of self-confidence among youth and also requirement of some money whereby they can actually move forward. I think that must have been idea, that is idea on which all these schemes have been launched, and they have been successful.
Okay. Mr. Badrinath, if you look at, as Sanjay mentioned, Startup India, and Dr. Yamini was also pointing out schemes like these. Also, at the same time, the way the entire process of digitization has moved, both seems to have, gone ahead hand in hand and given a push to each other. And, the overall ecosystem for startups in India seems to be in a very evolving situation and a perfect one right now.
See, a technology interface has been a big factor in most of the governance of the Modi government. Because if you take from Jan Dhan Yojana accounts opening up, linking them up with your Aadhaar card, linking them up with mobile phones, linking them up with everything that even you, perhaps tomorrow even your Gmail account could be linked up there. So point I'm trying to say is technology has been a big issue with the Modi government, and my guess is it has been harnessed, leveraged and exploited in a big way to see that the benefits of most of these schemes actually reach the beneficiaries. If you for 1 second get out of the Mudra Yojana or the Skill India campaign, the issue is even the cooking gas that was going to the people, a lot of wrongful beneficiaries have been taken out of the roster only because of the technology interface that we have made, and precious resources have been saved by the government. Second is, even in the Skill India campaign, a big component today is the technology, for simple reason. Today you are not going to subsidize skills developers. You are going to give skill vouchers, and you are not going to provide subsidy to people who are going to train you. You are going to give these vouchers, and these vouchers can be encashed by people who are seeking any kind of skill that is required for your starting an enterprise or seeking a business or seeking an opportunity elsewhere. So these system of vouchers, a system, or even it works like a debit card. You can debit whatever little you want to pay for the skills that is being imparted to you. So point I'm trying to make is technology is an issue which seems to be working big time to in the entire ecosystem of Modi government's governance as such. And Skills India, Digital India, then your Kaushalya Yojana, and all these things have been interlinked as spines and spurs in the overall ecosystem of for the youth as such.
Okay, Dr. Yamini, if you look at the impact of all these schemes overall, youth is a big demographic dividend India has, and the way they've been pushed to go ahead and develop their entrepreneurship skills and create jobs instead of seek jobs. What kind of impact has it had on the economy overall in the last 5 years?
Well, it has had a very positive impact in terms of building up a confidence among the youth that they can tomorrow make, do something and create businesses or develop entrepreneurial skills for themselves, and not only contributing to themselves but to the nation. So if you look at last 4 years, people have been more confident in getting jobs, getting approvals from the government, starting up on their own businesses, as well as they have been accommodated, as you talked about digitalization, have been accommodated by the technology interface through e-governance measures. So whether it's filing up a tax return, whether it is getting your subsidy, whether it is getting your bank loans that are there, all have been made easier. So let's say even the Aadhaar scheme which is there. So you have an Aadhaar, you go to a bank and you say, I want a loan. Based upon that, you can actually seek a loan for yourself. So these ecosystems actually which you talk about have created a positive vibe among the youth that tomorrow they can develop something and that can prosper. Okay. And also, let's say when we talk about the other initiatives, the government has been giving e-platforms, not only for the youth in the services sector or in the industry sector, but for the agriculture sector also. So let's say the e-NAM facilities that are there, the Mahila e-Hearts that we talk about, or the other, small and medium enterprises, e-marketing mechanisms that have been used, have been trying to promote innovations and products which are there, which are produced indigenously in our country and have not been receiving the sufficient amount of marketing which is there. So these all initiatives have created a better ecosystem for small and medium enterprises. Also, let's say the budgets in the past have reduced the tax rates on the small and medium enterprises, if you see. So they've taken it down to 25%, which is there, up to 250 crores as the turnover that is there, which also brings down the costs of the small and medium enterprises, which further promotes the youth to actually start up their ventures and to work in the small and medium enterprises rather than only seeking jobs from the government.
Okay, Mr. Badrinath, quickly, your point of view on the impact this has had on the economy and the other way around as well. The kind of ecosystem which has been made for these schemes, or those who go ahead and try to take a benefit of these schemes, such as Stand Up India or Startup India.
See, if you look at there's a lot of talk about non-creation of jobs. And several of the opposition parties have made charges about that. My guess is the Modi government has made a shift, as I was saying earlier, and you're creating jobs. You're becoming an entrepreneur yourself, or a business guy yourself, trying to provide jobs for others. So the data is still, very hazy. You have one set of data which says that there are no jobs. There's another set of data which says that, look, I've created a lot of work opportunity. So it shows up in the economy, isn't it? And many a time when you don't find anybody queuing up or something, that means what? That means that you're self-sufficient or self-made.
Okay.
So, this is what's in it. But there are two issues in this. One is in the skills part of it. Hardly. There was a recent, very, survey which says that only 5% of Indian rural youth is, properly skilled. So the emphasis on skills seems to be, this is where this fits in.
Okay.
Like South Korea, it is about 86%. Japan, it is about 80%. So if that is the case, then where are we?
So unless the youngsters are skilled, they will not be go ahead and find employment or entrepreneurship. Sanjay, quickly to sum up this youth part of it, the way we are looking at it, at least the aim which was for these schemes to go ahead and create avenues, create opportunities for the youth. That seems to have been successful.
See, youth was a huge social constituency for Modi, which translates into political constituency also. They were looking Modi for some kind of inspiration in 2014. And it was a challenge for Modi, and he came out with he came out with opportunities, he came out with schemes that can actually help. Related to that, if you look at the kind of exam stress that was there, he personally held sessions for students of class 10th and 12th, and telling them as to not to get into that kind of stress. I'm linking that because the stress was only excellence in terms of your academic record. And from there is a conscious effort, attempt to make that shift from just looking at the pattern of numbers that you score in a board. So there are other avenues of success also, and contributing for society also.
Okay.
So his good politics and good economics, and he's mixing
Both of them. So basically the traditional way of thinking in terms of how to go ahead and get jobs is something which has gone under a transformation. You can be skilled, you can get the support from the government through these schemes and be an entrepreneur as well. We'll take a short break now, but on the other side, we will talk about several other initiatives which have been taken for the empowerment of women. Stay tuned.
One of the greatest exponents of Carnatic music, MS Subbalakshmi or MS to her fans. An icon even to a younger generation brought up on fusion and rock music. MS is the first musician ever to be awarded the Bharat Ratna, also the first Indian musician to receive the Raymond Magsaysay Award. As India's cultural ambassador, she also performed at the UN General Assembly in 1966. Former Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru once said of MS, "Who am I, a mere Prime Minister, before a queen of music?"
नई तकनीक, नई सोच और समाज में उनका योगदान। आइए मुलाकात करवाते हैं आपकी उन व्यक्तियों से जिन्हें 2019 में देश का सर्वोच्च नागरिक सम्मान यानी कि पद्म सम्मान मिला है। देखिए सम्मान सिर्फ राज्यसभा टेलीविजन पर।
Well, now let's take a look at the women empowerment aspect. Now, several initiatives have been taken by the NDA government in the last 5 years for the safety of women and their empowerment. Let's take a look at the details of all these schemes and policies.
These protests following the brutal gang rape of a girl who later came to be known as Nirbhaya resonated with people across the country. The NDA government claims to have worked towards eliminating problems faced by women in the country. The many steps taken by the Modi government include security for women working in night shifts, reducing female feticide, and bringing an ordinance against the practice of triple talaq. A number of projects are also underway to make 8 of India's cities safer for women. The projects together would cost nearly 3,000 crore rupees under the Nirbhaya Fund. The 8 cities are Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, Bengaluru, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad and Lucknow. The projects aim to make the cities safer for women by addressing different aspects such as street lighting, safer public transport, improved policing, etc. A different mix of these steps would apply to each city, These projects have been designed in coordination with the police commissionerates and municipal corporations of the 8 cities. Many other schemes of the Modi government, like providing help during pregnancy, extension of maternity leave, free immunization and provision of capital punishment for rapists, are meant to increase India's safety, security and women's empowerment.
21वीं सदी में हम जी रहे हैं. क्या कभी हमारे मन को पीड़ा हुई? आज भी हमारी माताओं बहनों को खुले में शौच के लिए जाना चाहते हैं. डिग्निटी ऑफ विमेन, क्या ये हम सबका दायित्व नहीं है? बेचारी गांव की मां बहनें अंधेरे का इंतजार करती हैं. जब तक अंधेरा नहीं जाता है वो शौच के लिए नहीं जा पाती है. उसके शरीर को कितनी पीड़ा हो गई होगी, कितनी बीमारियों की जड़ें उसमें से शुरू होती होगी. क्या हमारी मां बहनों की इज्जत के लिए हम कम से कम शौचालय का प्रबंध नहीं कर सकते हैं?
Since the launch of the Swachh Bharat mission in 2014, over 9 crore 23 lakh household toilets have been built. The phenomenal growth can be seen from the fact that before 2014, the number was just a little under 49 lakhs. Open defecation-free villages increased from 47,026 to over 5.5 lakh villages. 613 districts in 29 states and union territories have been declared ODF. Of the 34.73 Jan Dhan accounts that have been opened, nearly 20 crore belong to women.
प्रधानमंत्री जन धन योजना के माध्यम से हम देश के गरीब से गरीब लोगों को बैंक अकाउंट की सुविधा से जोड़ना चाहते हैं. जो अकाउंट खोलेगा उसको डेबिट कार्ड दिया जाएगा और डेबिट कार्ड के साथ हर गरीब परिवार को 1 लाख रुपया का बीमा सुनिश्चित कर दिया जाएगा, ताकि उसके जीवन में कोई संकट आया तो उसके परिवारजनों को 1 लाख रुपए का बीमा मिल सकता है.
The government's Beti Bachao Beti Padhao initiative aims to increase the number of girls being born. Launched on January 22, 2015, the scheme had an initial funding of 100 crore rupees. It aims to address the issue of the declining child sex ratio and is a national initiative jointly run by the Ministry of Women and Child Development, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and the Ministry of Human Resource Development. Strategies employed to successfully carry out the scheme include implementing a sustained social mobilization and communication campaign to create equal value for the girl child and promote her education, placing the issue of decline in child sex ratio or the sex ratio at birth in public discourse, improvement of which would be an indicator for good governance, and focus on gender critical districts and cities.
Let's now take a look at the views of the experts on these initiatives taken for the empowerment and safety of women.
After every 20 minutes, a girl or a woman is raped, and 63 million women are still uneducated worldwide. Then this is time that we should think that what exactly is empowerment of women. And there are a number of schemes that has been taken up by the government, I would say this Modi government also. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Ujjwala scheme, women helpline, women police, these number of schemes you would say, they are rolled up and they are moving. But we have to think that they are only urban based, I would say. The women in the rural India still are not much, getting impacted or much getting benefits of this. So this is time that we have to think about how many women are actually getting benefits out of it.
Best of all, the government's achievement is the toilets, because a lot of sensitization, lot of awareness has come about the sanitation. So women, those who were going and defecating in open, and that was not only one thing, that it is not good for health, there was a safety angle to it, there were a lot of other issues related to it. So I think there where we are able to hit. So in fact, if you talk about using the sanitary napkins, and a lot of good achievements have been done on this on ground, because personally I have worked on these lines. So I can say that yes, toilets have been a very, very successful story of BJP government, of the Modi government.
Okay, so let's now find out from our experts in the studio as to what exactly have been the benefits on the ground of these schemes. Let me begin with you, Dr. Yamini, and let's begin with women empowerment. One of the figures which I have here with me says that 73% of the loans disbursed under the Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, and that amount is around 15 crore loans, have been disbursed to the women only. So is that a very strong indicator of how these schemes have worked on the ground when we talk about women empowerment?
True. These schemes have to actually benefit the women, and Mudra Yojana with its 75% outlay actually shows that it has benefited the women in terms of providing them self-employment. The government has been taking up other schemes, as I mentioned earlier, let's say the Mahila e-Hats which are there, whereby whatever products they actually produce would be sold on an online system that is there. Similarly, the STEP program which is there, which is the support of the training and empowerment of women, which actually provides them the opportunity to develop their skills and create jobs for themselves. Also, let's say the Swadhar Yojana, whereby the distressed women which are there are rehabilitated. Those who have in difficult situation are rehabilitated by the government in giving them shelter, clothing and food facilities which are there. So similarly, when you're actually providing them financial support, you're also at the same time providing them the necessary basic facilities which are needed to empower them, to develop them as good entrepreneurs, as not only providing jobs for themselves but for others as well.
Okay, so Sanjay, if we look at women, it's a very important constituent for the society as well. 50% of the population. So these schemes, if you look at them in detail, focus on both rural as well as urban women. Now, when we talk about Ujjwala scheme, the intended beneficiary is the rural women. When we talk about, the extension of the maternity leave, it's for both rural and urban women as well. So the focus has been to benefit women folk, be it in the rural areas or the urban areas, both.
On any parameters, Vishal, if women are not they are not educated, they don't have equal say within family or outside in society, you cannot call yourself to be a society, or you cannot aspire yourself to be a developed society. Modi, when he came out with this coinage, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, and he was there was great deal of sarcasm from his critics and from leaders in opposition. But he was consistent on this particular count. And he also has been successful. He has been talking about women, not just their education, the Mudra Yojana that you are talking about, this Swachh Bharat, Shauchalaya and so on and so forth, Sabha also and Ujjwala also. But even women feticide that was there, and as recent as some last week or 10 days back, when he was in Gujarat, largely with Patel community members, he was talking about skewed gender ratio out there. Why was that? That was precisely because women in society, in family, were not preferred, and therefore you have these kind of numbers. He has put a great deal of stress on that. Coincidentally, this parliament, which is now outgoing, 16th Lok Sabha, also has largest number of women, 62 for the first time. And I think that consciousness combined with the kind of stress that he laid, in all his speeches he started talking about dignity of women and women empowerment, beginning with something as basic as Shauchalaya. And therefore, I don't know why the figures that you quoted, I don't have actual answer. 73% women are there, beneficiary are from from women community. That perhaps also because so far they did not have a voice. So far perhaps they did not have this opportunity. In rural areas also, in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 kind of cities, they have come out and want to stand on their own. Remember, somebody who was foundation for the family can also be foundation for societal development.
Okay. Mr. Badrinath, all aspects seems to have been addressed here. And as Sanjay was pointing out, and Dr. Yamini was also saying, not only the economic aspect, if you look at the social aspect also in terms of providing better facilities to women through Swachh Bharat scheme, through Ujjwala Yojana, all these are a push to go ahead and make the women folk feel that yes, they are capable enough, and that is why we see this surge in numbers economically as well?
See, across 4 sectors, when you talk about the economy as such, in that either agriculture, trade, industry, or services, they have a massive contribution in terms of, to the economic growth and development. So henceforth, it's actually right, in fact, to put a lot of focus either on their development as such, individualistic development, or financially making them independent to empower them as such. So when you analyze what has happened in the last 3-4 years, my guess, something which should have been on the mind of Modi ji should have been that what experiment he did in Gujarat in the Beti Padhao and Beti Bachao Andolan, it virtually like a campaign. He had run it there. And he extended this to the entire country. And you had one such example even in Madhya Pradesh, where Shivraj Singh Chauhan's government did a lot of good work on that. And also, if you see, and this example was emulated by Nitish Kumar when he provided cycles for the girl child to pedal to the school and the college. So, and then there are a host of schemes which give you free education, free hostel facilities, security to you, and then after that skilling, then after that financial support. Your numbers say so.
Okay.
So point I'm trying to say is that some 360-degree kind of a approach seems to be, adopted by the Modi government to try and bring women into the mainstream when either it is rural women or the urban women.
Okay.
The cycle, if I may add, the cycle thing which she was talking about, Bihar Nitish Kumar government providing girls cycle. That cycle gives sense of empowerment. The cycle gives sense of freedom. You are cycling, you are in free air, you are on your own. And on certain occasions, if you are a cynic, you can put blinkers on your eyes and you see nothing. But those are situations where some other girl, some other youngster who was a toddler then, now grown up, gets inspiration from that. Some 2 women in CCS does not make that symbolic, but then that inspires a whole lot of others. A Sania Mirza or Saina Nehwal winning a cup kind of inspires a whole lot of other people. So therefore, we should also kind of the sense of empowerment and the confidence that these yojanas, various yojanas launched by Modi gives, that also has a widening effect in the society. Okay.
Dr. Yamini, when we talk about all these works being done for the women empowerment, we remember that, it all started with that, very important aspect to deal with. That is the skewed sex ratio, which we have in our country in several parts. And that seems to have been tackled well through Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. So the focus of, this entire segment started with the girl child.
Well, yes, the government has been actually trying to ensure that the people's attitude towards the girl child actually changes, whereby people see a girl child as an equal asset like a boy, and whereby they can actually create it as an asset by, let's say, creating a financial instrument in their name, let's say Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana, where the high interest rate of 8.5% is given for a girl child for less than 10 years. Or let's say a girl is given a certain incentive to study, which is there, and thereby once she's given incentive, she's also given loans and other facilities where she can not only take care of herself but take care of her family, which is there. So she's taken into consideration similar to as a status with that of a boy. Economic survey had actually highlighted that since there is this skewed difference which is there, our GDP growth is not getting the right push, because if you look at developed economies that are there, the women do not limit themselves to the household jobs, so they are work outside, but that is accounted in the GDP. In India, what happens is a lot of times the women work is not taken into the consideration of the GDP. Let's say women working in the agriculture sector, there are a lot of men who leave their farms to work at other places, and their women actually work in the farm sector. Their contributions is not notably put into the GDP.
Or the domestic workers.
Similarly, the domestic workers, or similarly women who are working and in the household, their importance is not taken into consideration. And thereby, if they are given right opportunities, like they are given right working hostel facilities, they are given a safer environment to work, they are given maternity leaves, these all would actually make them to work outside and contribute to the GDP and to the nation.
Okay. Mr. Badrinath, on this aspect, the contribution to the GDP and the overall impact it has on the economy, that is something which is also very, very important aspect.
Yes, as we were discussing earlier also, the issue here is that many of the services that today we provide, that most of them are headed by the women. And if you see even the financial services sector, the most of the banks are headed by women. And if you see many of the technology companies, they are headed by the women. And still there is some kind of resistance in a few sections where, for example, there was a lot of discussion on, providing 33% reservation for women members in the parliament. That did not come through because due to the lack of political consensus. And let's accept that the consensus needs to be arrived at as fast as possible in getting this, going.
Okay.
Secondly, for example, after the constitutional amendment, if I see that is the 33rd constitutional amendment, then many of the women have taken over the governance of the villages. So, point here is that if the village at village level, if you are going to have this, then why not do it at the parliament? This seems to be a big issue. So, it's not that, it's just that the corporates or agriculture sector or the trade or industry, even in politics, even in governance, they can make a very big impact.
Okay, Sanjay, one important aspect in which all three of you have mentioned, in your responses more than once, is the safety aspect, the security aspect, and therein also a lot, seems to have been done by, making the rules and laws more stricter, ensuring that women feel safe.
This had to be done at two levels. Some stringent measures, as you talked about, like death penalty for minor sexual attempt against minors, and also some government agencies getting pursuing cases more seriously than perhaps they used to. And the other level was at societal level, where you are raising awareness of people. When Modi talked about from Lal Killa, when he said, why do people actually ask their girls, female members in family as to where they had gone? It's time that you start asking boys or men in your family as to where they had gone, because the attempts cases against women are actually committed by boys. And that part had to be considered. On the legislative front, government has done few things. Post Nirbhaya, there is also great deal of societal pressure. People actually today are more aware, but then there is no correlation between the economic growth and crime rate against women coming down. I think that's a critical area where government has to focus, keep his focus.
In this, there are two issues. One, there needs to be perhaps some verifiable data on the contribution of women in terms of their contribution to the various sectors of the economy. Number one. Second issue is, many of us have a problem in the terms of, normally, there were political, opposition to the talaq bill that we had. Talaq is an instrument. The legislation that was brought in, triple talaq, doing away with it, is an empowerment issue. Let's not see it as a religious issue or from a very narrow angle. And so these two things, if we could have addressed during this term, perhaps it would have been one of the best.
Okay, let's take Dr. Yamini's views on this, since being the only woman here on the panel with us, both in terms of the steps, as Sanjay pointed out, in terms of tackling this security issue, as well as the triple talaq bill issue, which Mr. Badrinath is pointing out.
Well, I think they've been taking into consideration the 360-degree angle, which is there. So, which you actually talk about increasing the allocations for the Nirbhaya fund, which is there. Also, making the police systems stronger and giving police volunteers to women, taking care of the street lights, which are supposed to give a safety measure to them. Also, bringing about debates as to how do you change the laws that makes it difficult for anybody to get away from sexual assaults or crimes against women, which are there. And also, when you talk about triple talaq, a very important issue in empowering women, for them to actually lead a life which is secure and not at the at the whims and fancies of a man. If she's in a marriage, she knows that she is in a secure, safe relationship that is there. So whether it is on domestic violence, whether it is on triple talaq, these are matters which have been strongly taken care of by this government. And I believe twice they have tried to actually make it pass through the parliament, which automatically shows the intention of the government in empowering women, which are not, again, should not be seen from the religious point of view, but from the point of view of empowering women. Also, when we talk about education of women, Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao Yojana, or let's say giving them financial help, or let's say the Bharatiya Mahila Bank, which was created, has been merged with SBI, giving the necessary impetus loans which are then needed, and training them is required. These have been actually taken care of. And all the distressed women have been taken care of by giving them, I again repeat, basic necessities, your shelter, your food, your clothing, and then skill development, and then re-employment which is there, or employment that is there. And then at the employment level, giving them safety in terms of their doing work, which is, let's say, through the Matri Vandana Yojana, which is there, or the other Yojanas which are there. And also, through Anganwadi workers, or the self-help groups which have been promoted by this government, which automatically increase the manner in which women can actually do their jobs. Even the e-governance or the e-heart system is letting people reach them, because women cannot go door to door, so it becomes a safety issue. So when you actually allow online mechanisms to market products which may be a homemade product, you actually make it easier for women to do their businesses.
Okay. Sanjay, do you agree with Dr. Yamini on the triple talaq bill aspect, that it shows the intention of the government to go ahead and bring that change for the women across the spectrum?
Indeed so, because see, this is a gender justice issue. This has nothing to do with religion, as some people try to make that out. This was a need which the government needed to address, and unfortunately, because of the kind of politics that was involved there, no government was, prior to Modi came to power, and no political party, in fact, had the guts, I would say, to raise this particular issue and come out with a substantive legislation. Supreme Court declared that illegal and void, and therefore it was need of the hour, and Modi made that an issue. The BJP made that an issue, and rightly so.
Okay, Mr. Badrinath, again, coming back to the economic aspect of it, and looking at it in a holistic perspective, as Dr. Yamini was pointing out, when we talk about women, if you go ahead and empower them from the girl-child stage only, in terms of giving them education, then providing them opportunities for employment, a safer environment, it does add to the overall economic good health of the nation, because we're talking about 50% of the population.
Yes. If you recall, from the 2014 campaign of Mr. Modi, if you see, there was data which was put out by a different agency, that 67% of the women seems to have voted for Mr. Modi during 2014. So it makes even political sense for him to, address, or any political party to address the issues faced by women, and which will have a a ripple effect on the economy. In the sense, for example, we were talking about Mudra Yojana earlier. Now, if 67% or 70% of women are the beneficiaries of the Mudra Yojana, where about $27 billion has been, given out as loans, then what is the kind? This is going to have a huge impact. Even if you say that it is 7 or 8% is the economic growth, see the kind of contribution they are giving out to the women. So the second issue I would love to say is that this impact needs to be taken down the line to the rural areas and villages. One issue perhaps has been attempted and many of us have not got is the Ajivika program, where about $9 billion has been invested in terms of skilling them through self-help groups and things like that. So this is going to be huge. One is the skills which we are trying to do and which will have an impact in terms of having their own businesses, their own work, their own activities, and standing on their own self. And also most of the Jan Dhan Yojana accounts and also the ownership of the property, which has been mostly now new property registrations.
It's mostly in the name of the women.
In the name of the woman. As the head of, and she has also been recognized as the head of the family.
Okay.
So these are issues which is going to be very critical.
Okay, you mentioned the rural areas. Let's take a look at one of the schemes, and let's listen in to the experts' views on one of the schemes, that is the Ujjwala Yojana.
Modi ji's heart and soul is with the youth and with women, as equally with the rural, disempowered and excluded sections of society. Let's remember that all three segments constitute the most vital, heavily loaded demographic segments of India. And there are no exceptions. In his Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Modi ji went about a kind of a universal reform which was palatable to one and all. Yes, he prioritized youth and women, but his universal basic access, ease of living, things like lowering the tax limit for the middle classes, bringing down telecom rates where data transfer rates were so low. Everything, each and every one of these steps, the direct benefit transfers, all this was an amalgam of many, many things. It wasn't just oriented towards one person. Yes, it may have benefited certain segments, but by far and large, it was focused on speed, delivery, efficiency, and universal access to one and all.
Okay, so let's now take a concluding comment from each of our guests before we bring the show to an end. Starting with you, Sanjay. If you look at both these aspects which we have discussed over the last 1 hour, the empowerment of youth and the empowerment of women, as well as ensuring a safer environment for women folk.
See, these actually are very critical for nation's development and also society's overall growth. Women in particular, I think the Saubhagya Yojana that you are talking about, the Ujjwala Yojana, electricity gives you light in your life, which is very essential. And then you had this LPG gas scheme. Otherwise, women folk, actually those who were in rural areas actually were in great deal of distress. That plus Shauchalaya, I think, is a huge, huge plus for them.
Okay.
And that, of course, is going to make a difference.
Okay. Mr. Badrinath?
My guess is that we need to go beyond what has been done right now. In the sense that, yes, a lot of good work has been done in the last 4.5 years or 5 years. And perhaps it's now we have to take off from this level to spread it further and make this as a part of the natural ecosystem, which actually is accepted. It is not that someone has to do it. It is there and it has to be felt that way.
Okay, Dr. Yamini, final words from you.
I think a lot of work has been done in terms of the safety of the women. It is necessary that the safety is also inculcated in the education system in such a manner that the gender disparities are removed from the school level itself. So if the schools are made to actually explain and understand that women are not to be seen in that manner, they will help in the safety of women.
Okay, so clearly that explains a lot of initiatives which have been taken for the youth as well as empowerment of women. That's all we have for you in this edition of India Votes 2019, our election special show. We'll be back again on Monday and take a look at the foreign policy initiatives of the Modi government in the last 5 years. Stay tuned to Rajya Sabha TV.